Morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker. I'm here for another constitutional talk. Our Constitution was worked on in 1787. That's what depicts this picture here. But I want to fast forward today and get past uh, the turn of the century all the way up to our Civil War. And by the mid 1860s, the war was over. The cannons smoke had stopped coming from the cannons. The war was Lincoln was president, and he was determined to be president of all the states, and he's known for preserving the Union. And here's Mr. Lincoln right here. Now, following the war, Lincoln took some time off and went to the theater. He was killed, assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, a famous actor from a famous actor's family. He was hunted down. He was hung. His co-conspirators were hung. And the mood in the country was not one of reconciliation. If President Lincoln had lived, it may have been different. He was famous for saying in malice towards none. He wanted to be president of all the states, not just the northern states. And so he wanted to let them back in the Union without any retribution at all. We lost 500,000 men fighting in the Civil War. So the country was in a lot of pain. The South was relegated to district legislatures. They weren't full states until they were brought back into the Union. Carpetbaggers came down from it north, stole anything that was left, really. And so there was a lot of misery to go all the way around. The president being assassinated, the mood in the country was such they weren't very conciliatory towards the South. And that's the lay of the land, really. And earlier, as I mentioned, the proclamation, the declaration that the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves, and we sent up some amendments known as the Reconstructionist Amendments, the 13th through the 15th. And we talked about the 13th last month. And the 13th basically freed all slaves and ended slavery once and for all in the Constitution, and ended indentured servitude, which was a system up north. So we get to the 14th. We get to the 14th Amendment, and I just want to read for you Section 1 of Amendment 14. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States, of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections of the laws. That is Section 1 of Article 14, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It is a lengthy amendment, so I'm going to break it down and just discuss this section today. Now, when we talk about all persons being naturalized, that means they came to the country and they became citizens. That is basically a naturalization. So if they were born or naturalized here, they would be citizens. The objective here is to make the children of the ex-slaves citizens of the United States. It has no reference to anything else. People on vacation, people crossing the border, people people just overstaying, and it doesn't make their children um, legal citizens. Otherwise, you would have children of diplomats from France or England that would automatically be citizens, and that's not the intent of the article, and that's not what it means. So we get into the next section here. No, and the other thing I think is important, it says they'll be citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, that's an interesting thing because we always think of ourselves as citizens of the United States of America and residents of the state of which we reside. But here it says that we're actually citizens of the state. So this is interesting because of the states' rights issue and this not being a national government, but a federal government. Basically, a federation of states. It would be a federal government. So you have states coming together for the purpose of defense and other things it's necessary to run a federal government. But it's not really a national government, it's a federal government. And that's the difference here. And so they're saying that you're also uh, a citizen of the state. And, until I really started digging deep into some of the constitutional issues, that just didn't even meet my mind, really. But clearly, this is how our founders thought. So, going on, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States. So basically, this is to protect citizens, protect the slaves from ridiculous laws created to keep them down. And eventually, we get into Jim Crow laws trying to stop blacks from voting and all these kind of things. Okay, so the Constitution is not going to allow that to go on. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. So basically, what we're doing here in the 13th, we end slavery, indentured servitude, and in the 14th, we're making them equal citizens. So they can't be deprived of their own property once they obtain property or anything else without actually going through the formal situation of law. So if you're found guilty of something, yes, you can have property taken from you in lieu of a fine or something along those lines. But what we're really doing is making them all equal citizens along with everyone else so that it applies to everyone. Nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. So everyone will be equal. The states will behave themselves. They will respect that citizenship and that equality under the law. States do not have the right to institute law that violates somebody's equal rights. And that's really where we're getting at in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. This is a much misused amendment in my mind. Is there are lots of things people point to the 14th Amendment saying something where it just really isn't there. And I think we have to really understand what's important here is the original intention of the Constitution, of the amendments. Originalism. You're following the text in textualism. And when you do that, you're looking at the original intent. And the original intent here is simply to make slaves, well, children of slaves, citizens, and of course, the slaves themselves, and children of indentured servants and all this kind of thing. So they are equal citizens, and it's giving them a clear path to equality under the law. And this, my friends, is very important. This comes to liberty. This comes to the importance of our constitutional republic, that all people are created equal. In fact, that's one of Lincoln's lines, that all men are created equal. They are endowed from their creator with certain inalienable rights, and among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we have a lot of discussion of our founder's words, of Lincoln's words, and there's nothing greater than the Gettysburg Address, talking about how the people that died there really hallowed that ground. This war was a vicious fight, hand-to-hand combat war, and we lost a tremendous wealth of people. The South was completely destroyed and had to be rebuilt because, frankly, most of the war took place in the South. But eventually, we did win the conflict. And, it's kind of an interesting thing because the North actually lost more men than the South lost. And when you're fighting on home territory, you're always fighting harder because you're trying to preserve what's yours. The veterans on both sides of the conflict were made veterans of the United States. There are lots of people that want to call them traitors today, but we need to get past the war and unite the country and realize that, yes, we had disputed differences. Yes, they seceded from the Union, but we fought a war. We brought them back into the Union. And that was really the reason for fighting the war to begin with, once the South attacked our fort, and we were determined to become one country again. Lincoln wanted that more than anything. He wanted to be president of all the country, of all the states. Unfortunately, he wouldn't really live to see that come about, because he would be assassinated and his presidency would be cut short before the southern states re-entered the Union. I just want you to think about how important these amendments are. The 13th through the 15th, the sections that bring about equality to the people. That's what's important. So I want you to think about that today, and I'll catch you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. You have a good day now. Bye.